What?
Hi, Rondi.
Hi. How are you?
Good. We're staying healthy, hopefully.
Good.
Building immunity. Looking forward to this class. How are you doing with the girls and
Good.
Maury? Am I the first one?
What?
I'm the first one?
I think so. Yeah, I was wondering, is anyone gonna come?
Yeah.
Oh, there's Julia. I'll be right back. I gotta change my apron. I don't like
Okay.
this one.
Hi, Julia.
Hi.
I don't think I know you. I'm Vivian Presnick.
Hi. I think I've definitely heard about you before. Maybe someone's not mentioned your name, but
What's your name? Julia Snyder?
yes.
Okay.
And I'm the programs coordinator for Beth Meyer.
Oh, that's it. So I attended one of these Zoom classes. It was the Irregardless, and they were making, I'm trying to remember.
Oh, Arthur was doing a show?
Yeah. Do you
Yeah,
remember?
the cheesecake.
That was it. Yeah.
Oh,
Hi.
Anya. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't make any cheesecake, but it looked good.
That's good.
I probably won't bake a cake, but I'll eat it vicariously.
Well, that's good. You
Now
know,
I unmute myself. Thank you, Julia, for your answer.
Good. I'm glad you got it.
Thanks for putting in the time, Rondi, to do this.
oh, you're welcome. I appreciate it. It took some time, actually. I didn't realize.
Oh, wow.
Because I had to make the cakes ahead of time, right? And then I have to make them again to show you.
Oh,
I didn't even think.
I'll come and get a piece.
I'll bring you a piece.
Delivery too, a class and a delivery. Woo!
Is the lighting good?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, good. How many do we know who's coming, or we don't know?
There's been about 15 to 20 people at every class we've had. So I assume it will be like that, but
Oh, good.
It's a little bit early.
yeah.
Oh,
I got on early. I'm like, I hope this is the right night. I'm trying to see myself on the big screen so I see what I'm doing. I don't know how to do that, but.
If you click speaker view, it should make who's ever speaking.
Okay,
big.
so later when I'm speaking, I guess, and everyone's muted, it'll come up then.
Yeah.
Hi,
also-
everybody.
Hi, Greta.
hi, Greta.
How are you?
Twice in one day, Greta.
Hi, Vivian. Yes, you're right.
Yes, we did a Zoom
So,
class with Rabbi Jenny this morning.
Oh, that's
right.
good.
Yeah.
We're all wisely aged. Rondi, we just made pizza with the sourdough discard. It was really good. So
Oh, you made dough with the discard.
yes.
Wow.
And so now I have it sitting on the counter, and I'm feeding. It's like about to jump out of the jar, but I'm feeding it every day so I can bake on Thursday.
Oh, I mean, you can put it in the fridge and then just feed it the day you want to use it.
Oh, so this thing from the book you got, Rachel, gives you a schedule, and you feed it every day, and then you the night before you put all the dough together.
Yeah, you feed it every day until it's where it's supposed to be, and then I keep it in the fridge.
So this is, Rondi, this is what it looks like.
What? Wait,
You need to raise it because then, yeah, that's
let me see.
Can you see it?
No, I can't. Where are you? Oh. Oh, yeah, put that in the fridge till you need it.
Okay, all right. And should I feed it again tomorrow?
Only feed it the day you're going to use it, like
Okay.
time it, because it'll
Okay.
take it'll take a few days to activate.
Is
All
this
right, so It's sourdough starter, Vivian. And Rondi's an expert.
Okay,
Yeah.
so do you use that instead of yeast?
Yes.
Yes.
Because there's yeast.
Although the pizza did call for a half a teaspoon of yeast.
Oh, because you're using discard. If you use sourdough starter, you don't need it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's a lot of starter. What are you making?
I was gonna make your bread on Thursday.
Yeah, that's plenty. I mean, I usually only have that much, and then I feed it when I want to use it.
So maybe I don't have to feed it again.
Well, it might not be activated then.
Oh, okay. So feed it. Say I'm gonna make the bread on Thursday.
What time? What time?
I don't know. I have to put the dough together Wednesday, right?
What I do is I feed it like 4 in the afternoon, 3, leave it out so that by 7 or so, it's definitely ready. And then I make it, and it has to rest overnight.
Right. So that's what I'll do. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We could do a separate show on that.
Yes, you do.
A show. Like this is a show.
The Rondi show.
Yes, you need to definitely do it.
Yeah, I'd love to see that one.
Well, to be honest, I never make my own starter. My husband's cousin gave it to me at Christmas time when we were in New York. So I have no desire to make my own starter. Like, I have so much, I'll give it to people who want it. People on Facebook make starter. They take a Ziploc and they put it on people's trees, and you just take one in your neighborhood.
Oh my God.
Right?
Yep. All right. I already made a cake.
Which one? The chocolate one?
No, I made a Sally's Addiction white cake because I had
Oh, right.
egg whites to use up.
Well, I'll tell you something. My cake recipe, my own one, is complicated. So I felt that for the first time, I'm not going to do that one. Let me do one that won't be as complicated. And this recipe, I didn't realize, is a 3-layer. So I am only going to make it as a 2-layer. I'm going to ice it because that, for the first time, I'm going to do that for you guys. So you're going to have extra batter unless you make the 3 layers, I'm going to make cupcakes with the extra for my daughter for camp tomorrow.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so because it makes 3 9-inch layers, and I normally only do 2. So, but unfortunately, I didn't read that until I was making.
So camp has started?
Yeah, it started today at the JCC.
Great. It's good that they're able to do that.
Oh yeah, it's very safe and social distance, like to the beyond. Who's that? Oh, is that Bernice?
Should I measure out 3 or 4 cups of confectioner's sugar?
I did the total amount. I
Okay.
mixed it all together already.
Because it says 3
not
to
smart,
4
but
cups.
What?
For the frosting, it says 3 to 4 cups of confectioner's sugar.
I mean, I measured it all out, but
Okay.
you could do like 3 and then have it on standby, which is what I
Okay.
should have done. Julia, please tell me when I should start.
Yeah, I'll just give a brief introduction and then I'll hand it over to
Okay.
Randy. Just wanted to welcome everyone. This is part of our Monday night speaker series happening during COVID. I just wanted to let everyone know that this is being recorded. It'll only have the person speaking recorded and they will be saved unlisted on YouTube. So if you want a copy of this video, you can email me or somebody in the office and they can send you the video, but it's private. We'll be doing these throughout the summer as well. And also Sisterhood is going to be doing a Thursday night similar series as well. So you can check those out. So I'll hand it over to you, Rondi.
So, well, welcome everybody. Like I said earlier, I didn't use my own recipes because they're very complicated. And I kind of wanted to make it so that everyone could make these, but if you're interested in learning how to make mine, I'm happy to tell you about them. So I like Sally's Baking Addiction. I think she does a good job because she really, I feel like she's done all the homework tonight. So I like her recipes if I need something I'm not using of my own. So I highly recommend that website. So I'm going to start with the vanilla cake. And as I said, I didn't realize it was 3 layers. So I'm going to try to scale it down. And if anyone wants a recipe for 2 layers, I will make that available. But as I said, a third, you can make a 3-layer cake, or like I'm making cupcakes with the rest. So, so the first thing about the cake is that when I bake, I make sure my butter is room temperature. I already put the butter in here. My eggs and whatever my dairy is, my liquid, I'm using buttermilk. And this cake is all butter. It has no oil, and I was a little hesitant because sometimes it's to be a drier cake. But actually, when I tried it, it was really good. So I was really happy with that. So the first thing the recipe says to do is measure out your dry ingredients. It's 3 and 2/3. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
perfect.
I did 3 2/3 a cup of cake flour. So this is the cake flour that I find everywhere, but if you don't have cake flour, you can substitute. So 1 cup of cake flour is equal to, you take 1 level cup of flour. You know, you want to always make sure, I don't know if I did this the last time with you guys, but you want to level your dry ingredients. So you take 1 cup of all-purpose flour, and then you take out 2 tablespoons of it, put it aside, put it back in your flour container, and then you'll add 2 level tablespoons of cornstarch. So it's a cup of flour, take out 2 tablespoons, then add 2 tablespoons of cornstarch for each one. And you want to sift it a few times so it's all mixed together. And that, what it is with all-purpose flour has a higher protein content than the cake flour. So which means less protein, less gluten. It should be softer and fluffier. So what I did was I put the flour in, I added my salt, my baking powder, and my baking soda. And I'm just gonna whisk it. I didn't find for this recipe I needed to sift it. So I did not sift it. So you can get this anywhere. You can get this at Walmart, Publix, this is the only brand I've ever heard of. Or make your own. Okay, so I just whisk my dry ingredients. And then the next step is you want to put your butter in your bowl, your room temperature butter. Sometimes I need to bake last minute and my butter's ice cold. So what I do is I put it in the microwave for increments of about 3 seconds at a time. If you do it anymore, you can melt your butter until it's soft enough. But that's tricky, so try to always have it at room temperature. Then what I did with my butter sheets, when I take the paper off my butter, I use it to grease my pan. A lot of you probably already know this trick, but this is what I do with it. Okay, so I got my butter in there. All right. My handle. And then it says to cream it with 2 cups of sugar. I don't like sweet cake, so what I've experimented with is I cut down the sugar on a lot of my cakes. With this recipe, I haven't tested it yet, so I'm gonna go ahead with the 2 cups. But if I end up making it with less sugar, I'll send out an email so you can see. Because so many times I find these cakes are just too sweet. So I'm gonna put on my mixer and I'm gonna let it cream, and I'm gonna show you what it should look like. Once it's creamed, I've already had my eggs cracked, 3 eggs and 2 whites. I have everything measured out. I try to get everything done and measured before I start. I'm gonna stop this because I wanna break down the sides is important, and especially the bottom. Like the bottom layer, you need to bring it up. Because a lot of times what happens is some of your ingredients will be stuck on the bottom. In this case, it would be the sugar. But you could have dry ingredients stuck there, and then your cookies might not rise properly, and you might not know why, but you really have to scrape it up. All right?
I have a question, Rondi. A
Yeah.
lot of times I was under the impression that you could not cut back on sugar because it affects the rise in the cake.
It definitely does. That's why I wouldn't try it until I give you a recipe that actually works. Like I have a coconut cake recipe that calls for, well, it's a large scale recipe. And I brought it down from 8 to 6 cups and it was fine. So it's something you gotta experiment a little bit at a time with.
Okay.
So if you have a recipe, you wanna shoot me an email and I can help you with that. Because some recipes you can't, depending on what else is in it. But that's a good point. You have to be careful with that. Because I did try that at work the other day. I tried to go down to like 4 cups. It definitely affected the cake. And then it wasn't even sweet enough. So I'm gonna keep my 6 cups for my coconut cake that everybody loves. All right, I'm gonna cream this. I'm gonna scrape it down one more time. Feel free to speak up if you have a question or anything, or a tip. I'm always happy to get tips from other people, because I certainly don't know it all.
Hey, Rondi, this is Bonnie. Sorry, my video is not working right now, but have you experimented with the paddle that has the scraper built in?
I never even heard of that.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Is it on the KitchenAid?
Yes.
Oh, is that a new thing? Like, can I order it?
I don't think it's terribly new, but yes, you can order it. So one of the edges has a rubber scraper, so it scrapes as it blends.
Oh, that sounds cool, but it doesn't get out the bottom, right?
Read the
You gotta do your
reviews on
bottom.
it first.
Right, Bonnie?
Rondi.
What?
I said, read the reviews on it before you order.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't scrape up the bottom part, right?
Right.
All right, I like to really cream the crap out of this, I say. So it almost has like a smell. Explain it. Like, let me show you what it should look like. I don't follow, unfortunately, it probably says how many minutes to cream it, but I don't follow that, but you'd be advised to follow the direction. That looks really good. I'm gonna show you. I have a bigger mixer, but it's so noisy that I'm using this one. It should be light and fluffy. Like this. I don't know if you could see that. Everyone see that?
Yeah.
All right. I think I've had this forever, this one. Okay, one more time, we're gonna give it another go. And then, I like this recipe because you add everything at once, each thing. It's not one of the ones where it says add an egg one at a time. Although for this kind of cake, you wouldn't need to. So I'm adding my eggs and my egg whites. And then I already measured out my vanilla. This recipe says 1 tablespoon vanilla, and then it says something like, yes, 1 tablespoon, which is a lot, and you need it. And you really, as far as vanilla goes, make sure you buy pure vanilla. Don't buy the artificial one. You're gonna be able to taste that. It doesn't taste good. And you can make your own, but it is actually expensive, but I still do it I have a huge bag of, fortunately someone gifted me this big bag of vanilla bean, and I use vodka in it, and I let it sit for a few months, and then it gets dark brown, and that's what I use. But I know there's another way to do that. Greta has a different, you use a different alcohol, right?
I use Everclear sometimes, or sometimes I use a really good brandy. Just depends.
I use the potato vodka because it's gluten-free.
Right. Very
All
good.
right, I'm mixing it. This two should mix really, really well. So that's combined. I feel like I forgot. No, I didn't forget anything. So I did, when I put my dry ingredients, I did whisk this. To whisk the baking powder, baking soda, and salt in there. I'm going to show you a couple things while this is mixing. Let me just scrape it down.
It's a very quiet mixer.
Yeah, thank you. My other one isn't. It's so loud that you get a headache from it. I don't know why it's so loud.
I have a KitchenAid and it's loud.
Yeah, this is good. This is quiet. This is circa 19, I don't know, 80, 90.
Yeah.
So while that's going, some of the things that, you know what, when you have, I'm just going to show you, my teaspoons have 1/8 of a teaspoon, which I love. It's hard to find sometimes. It's good to have one with 1/8 of a teaspoon, and even, I don't know where to find it yet, but I would like to find it with 1/3 of a teaspoon, because I've come across some recipes that I've cut in half and I need 1/3, because it's 1/3 is not 1/4. It's more actually, but it's not as much as a half. So I have that, and then one of the other things, so also this is for later, these are some tools that I got along the way, and you can probably order these for this, when you're icing a cake, you can go on the sides of the cake just to create like a decoration. It's also good to have these pastry bags. This is a really big one. You don't need them this big. This is just what I happen to have. I'll go into more detail with that later. This looks really good. I'm going to show it to you. At the end, I like to give it a blast. You gotta mix this until it says in the directions, and you'll see sometimes it separates and it looks like little curds. So you gotta try to mix that till that all comes together. And you can see it's really fluffy and light and all combined. Okay. This one, a lot of these mixers, they have a certain way. Okay, that's it. So I'll give it one more spin. And then this one, this recipe has you go on low and gradually add all the dry ingredients, which I never really had a recipe like that. I usually alternate between the dry and the wet. So, but I followed it, and I like the way it came out. And just be careful because you can blow it all over your kitchen, the flour. Any questions? Be very careful if you're going to use glass, because you can hit the glass right onto that and crack it right into your bowl. And let me tell you, I've done that before, and it wasn't fun. So I try to use metal or plastic as often as I can while the mix is running. Woo.
So this recipe, Rondi, doesn't call for adding the flour alternately to the liquid?
No. That's what I was like, really? I never heard of that. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it, because I never did that before. And the cake came out really nice, because I've already made this cake for you guys. So you don't have to wait for it to bake now. Now, I want to get the rest of this in there, so I'm going to shut it off so I don't bang this mixer. And my counter is clean. I cleaned it so that I can scrape up my flour with this plastic scraper. I love this. This is one of my favorite tools. I read somewhere about a year ago that in some restaurant kitchens in New York City, these were like, they had to hide them from each other because they would steal them. Or maybe it was a bakery, but I guess they don't have to worry about that now. All right, now I'm gonna get the sides a little. And give it a whirl till it's all combined. I like to clean as I go, so I don't have a huge mess and I'm not disorganized. There's no good feeling like that. Okay, one thing, that was enough of a mix. You don't want to over mix that because you can actually toughen it up. So don't over mix that. And then I'm gonna add this a little at a time before I turn it on. This is the buttermilk at room temperature. I didn't have any buttermilk when I made my cake yesterday, so I used half yogurt, unflavored yogurt, and half milk and mixed it together. And I have done that many times in a pinch. You can also, there is a way to make it with milk and lemon juice. You can look that up on the internet. But
Two tablespoons of lemon juice or vinegar to a cup of milk.
Or vinegar, because sometimes you don't have lemon.
Right.
But I like my yogurt milk mix. I don't know where I came up with that one. I think it worked once.
To make
I didn't
buttermilk all the time.
And I used sour cream and milk. That's what I did. Did someone say something?
I was saying that I use the vinegar with milk all the time to make buttermilk very successfully.
That's a great like little hack, baking hack. Because then you don't have to have buttermilk in your house, right?
Exactly.
And then, unless you're making buttermilk pancakes or something. Thank you. I also, if I'm going to buy buttermilk, I like full fat for baking. So this, I feel like it's mixing up. I want to mix the rest by hand so I don't over mix it. I'm just going to get a glove. My hands are clean, but I don't always want this on my hands. I'm just gonna take this off my beater. And if you tap it, you get a lot of it off. All right. Then it looks like this. I'm gonna mix the rest of it by hand because I don't want to over mix it. And this thing with this adding the milk last, it makes it harder to incorporate all the milk, I noticed. That was the only thing I noticed. So that's why I wanted to. And I go under. I go all the way down and under and over. I kind of fold it is what it's called so that I don't over mix it. Okay. Now, then I go like this. I wanted to say too that if you guys don't have one, a digital scale is great. And what I did yesterday, I didn't do it tonight. I actually weighed my bowl first, and then I weighed the ingredients so that I could put the right amount in each one. And I'm gonna do that right now, actually. I'm gonna put it on ounces. And then you can push the button on and it's called tare, and it puts it to 0. And I use this a lot. So if you have an ingredient, like with the flour, was 3 2/3 of cup cake flour, or it said 420 grams. I actually weighed that out with a scale. I just like that actually for accuracy. So this is gonna have to be split into thirds. And then some for cupcakes, which I'll do later. So that's good. That's 20. Do a little, okay. I use the scraper. Sometimes what I do too is I take an ice cream scoop and I put the same amount of scoops in each one. And that way I know exactly how much it is. But this case I weighed it. And I'm gonna smooth it out. My spatula. This is a really nice, fluffy, creamy recipe. I really like this cake. And like I said, I'm gonna scale it to 2 layers because I don't always need a 3-layer cake. Then I like to shake it a little, and I go like this one time. That gets out any air bubbles if you have them. Like that. I'm gonna pop these in the oven. I put it on for 20 minutes because I want to check it before. Okay, and this I'm gonna save for later. The cupcake. I'm gonna do it quickly if you guys don't mind, so I can get it out and done.
I'll have a couple of chips, okay? You said you couldn't get on a wall to hit?
What?
Bernice, turn off your mute. We can hear you.
Oh, I thought you said, should I hit it against the wall? I have ice cream scoops in every size for different things. I love these. At work, when I make like my layer cakes and I'm making like 10 layers of coconut cake, I know that each pan gets 8 scoops, or actually 6. So I really rely on these guys for a lot of things. Wow, so the extra cake actually made almost a dozen cupcakes. That's interesting. And I'm a big believer in getting every drop out of your bowl. And this works, and so did that other tool that I showed you, my little plastic scraper. So I can get in there. Now, wipe that off. And I get in my bowl like this. Just like that. You get everything out that way. All right, made 11 cupcakes. Somebody's gonna have a lucky day tomorrow. All right. Okay, I heard you. All right, cupcakes in. All right, so I'm gonna move on to the icing of the cake. So I'm gonna demonstrate how to make the icing and how to level the cake. Give me a second. I needed an assistant for this job.
Rondi, I have a question.
All right. I have extra bowls for my big one. I don't have extra bowls for this one.
Someone has a question, Rondi.
Yes.
Rondi, I have a question.
Yes.
When you put the cakes on the top and the cupcakes on the bottom, do you put the convection or the regular?
Oh, I always use my convection oven.
Do you increase the temperature or the same temperature?
Now I have a function on my oven that says multi-shelves.
Okay. And for the people that do not have the multi, what do you suggest?
I suggest you just leave enough air between the racks, not put them too close together. You know, like not too close to the top, but like a third of the way down and then 2/3, and leave air in
And
between.
convection mode?
I do the same with convection because if I put in 3 racks of stuff, it just doesn't cook as quickly. Does that help? Anything else before I go on? Okay, so for icing, your butter really has to be room temperature, and it can never be melted because you should never use melted butter for any kind of cake, but for icing especially. And since I don't need the pans buttered, I'm just gonna butter the side of my bowl. I use unsalted butter like the recipe calls for, but oftentimes I only have salted in the house and the kids want cookies or something, and what I'll do is I'll make it with the salted butter, and then I'll just cut down on the salt a lot. All right. Daddy threw them out. Julia just baked some of the best chocolate chip cookies. I'll have to get you that recipe, but unfortunately, I don't know how they didn't get eaten, but they were out too long, so we had to crumble them into the garbage. Okay, so the butter, I'm just wiping that up from the fork. So with your icing, you want to cream your butter. Can you stop? The dogs are going crazy. Till it's smooth. Here. The TV chefs have it easy. Everything's done for them. Okay, I'm going to break down my butter. You'll hear me say that all night. Okay. A little more. Butter has a really nice smell when it's soft and creamy.
Rondi, do you find any difference for using the fancy European butters with the high butter fat? Do you use those for anything, or?
You mean like the European, like Plugra?
Yeah.
I mean, years ago, when I started a cookie company, I used that very fancy butter, but I don't really feel like there's a huge difference. It really depends. Like if you're making like a puff pastry or something that the butter is really important where the flavor is like croissant maybe, then I would. But for like this, no. But I bought the Land O'Lakes because I like that a lot. I've tried, I just like that butter. Especially when it's on sale, I like it.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like, is there any, so if we're just baking cookies, cakes, or whatever, then there's really no need to get the expensive European stuff?
You can try it. I mean, it's expensive, but you could probably, if it's like a thing that has a lot of butter in it, would be a good thing to do. You don't have to.
Okay.
I am careful though, like to buy like butter that's like store brand butters. They're not all equal. They're not all good. They have sometimes a high water content in them, and they're not as consistent as Land O'Lakes is always consistent. I mean, when you're baking for a enormous crowd, Land O'Lakes can be be too expensive. So I'll use whatever I get at Restaurant Depot, let's say,
okay.
or Costco's brand of butter is really good. So, all right, the butter looks like. That, very soft. When I bake, I always try to use the best ingredients I can when I'm doing small batch, because it just tastes better and you get a better result. Like, I'm a flour snob. I like to use King Arthur because it just bakes really well. Also, I don't always use white Domino sugar at home. I've been using cane sugar. I like that. I try to, like I said, pure vanilla. So here I already measured out my confectioner sugar and cocoa for the icing. And let me tell you, there's a big difference in cocoa, especially for icing, things like that. So this is the Hershey's one. I mean, the Trader Joe one looks like that too, I think. And then this I splurge for cakes like this. This is Valrhona cocoa. More cacao. Can you see that? I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yes, I can see the difference in color.
What?
The Valorosa is deeper in color.
Yeah, it's so rich and delicious, and you only need for this 3/4 of a cup. So I saved this. This is the good stuff. Like when the girls are trying to make hot chocolate, I'm like, do not touch that. You can use this or Trader Joe's, but you're not using that.
Where do you get that cocoa?
I got this at Whole Foods. It's expensive. So I paid almost $5 for this, but I'm only using 3/4 of the cup. It's like $15 a pound, Valrhona. And I mean, at work, I get it in a humongous thing, but you can probably order it online. And at Trader Joe's, they sell bars of Valrhona bittersweet chocolate, and then it's an amazing chocolate to bake with. I love it. So it's spelled Valrhona. But if you can't get it, just use regular cocoa. There might even be a dark cocoa that looks as good as that. I don't see it, so I haven't seen it. So I'm gonna do this a little at a time because it will spray all over your kitchen. Oh yeah, I need cream, right? 3 to 5 tablespoons cream, or half and half. I forgot to leave that out. This is such a smooth, it's very smooth. Hey, Aaliyah, Julia. I want someone to hold up the camera for me. Okay. Now, I measured this out, and I would measure it separate because you might not need all the confectionery sugar. And then it was 3 to 5 tablespoons of half and half for cream. I've used milk if I don't have either one of those. Okay.
Have you ever substituted almond milk for dairy milk?
I have, but for like icing, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, then you wouldn't be using butter then either, right?
Right.
So what I would do is, that's tricky. You would use like a vegan butter or a margarine type thing. And then you could use one of those, but I would have to figure out which one would be the best, but you can. And you can make, I do a lot of non-dairy cakes at the restaurant, vegan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start pouring in a little of my cream. And the base of those cakes are, I use oil. I actually use like an olive oil, like not a virgin olive oil, regular olive oil. And then the dairy I use for that is coconut milk, only because I think it has, for me, it has the least amount of flavor. But you could use oat milk, cashew milk is great too. But if you're doing non-dairy, you're gonna work, for icing would be different, and I would tell you how to do that. There's a shortening, there is a shortening that's not Crisco that I really like. It tastes like, when you make that, it tastes like vanilla bean. It just tastes really good. I don't want to blow this place up with flour and stuff. But you can also go like this. All right. A little more. Can you get me the other thing out of the fridge thing? Yeah, I think it's in the other fridge. Okay. Actually, I really like this. So I was gonna say, I don't normally make my icings. I don't usually do confection or sugar icing. I'm doing it because it's easy, but I'll do icings that are cooked, where I take egg whites and sugar, and I cook that till 160, which is the temperature where it's cooked at. And then I whip that into a meringue, and then I add my butter. So that's another type of icing. It's just more complicated. But if anyone's wanting to learn those, I'll do that. But this is a basic icing that those icings I use melted chocolate as well instead of cocoa. So with icings with confectionery sugar, you get a little kind of a mouthfeel, which is fine. But all right. And this called for vanilla, right? Teaspoon of vanilla. This is my vanilla that I made. Vanilla is so expensive that I don't even know if it's
What happened?
I'm not sure. I think Rondi might have had her phone die or left the room. I will email her. Let's see.
I'm gonna call her.
Okay. Oh, there she is.
Yeah, the TV's on. Oh, my cable went out. I mean, my internet went out. Sorry.
Oh,
Are you there?
yes.
Okay, sorry guys.
No
My
worries.
internet went out. So, see how nice and it's kind of silky looking. That's how I know it's done. I'm gonna scrape my sides again. Okay. Now I found this recipe from her because her first original recipe, she said it wasn't enough to ice a layer cake. So this one is supposed to ice the whole cake. All right. There's that. Is everyone still there? It's so quiet.
We're watching intently.
So this is a really nice icing. I knew when I read
very
this
hungry.
recipe- What? Oh, you're hungry? Samples if you want to do a drive-by, because I have like now 2 cakes in this house. Okay, so there's my icing. All right. Let's move this guy. All right. Okay. This. All right. So I have this little cake. I have a lot of different cake stands, but this one I happen to have. I have like, there's bigger ones, taller, that are sometimes, but this is really easy. It was from Michael's. And I like a cake stand. It's a good thing to have because it's much easier to ice a cake if you can move your cake. I just want to make sure you guys can see that. All right. Now I'm going to get my cakes out. So I made 3 cakes. So when you bake your cakes, I find I like to ice my cakes when they're cold. So I put them in overnight and I wrap them really well in plastic. So I'm going to save one of these because I'm only going to do a 2-layer today. So I like them cold because it's easier to trim a cake and ice it when it's cold. If it's just made, it falls apart. So I don't recommend you make it. I recommend you ice it later or tomorrow. I think only one person's making it, right? So there we go. Okay, so here's my cake, and it's got a little bit of a dome on it. Let me just check this. Almost. Okay, so what I do with my cakes, I mean, you can always serve them upside down, but then it's got a funny ridge there. So I take a serrated knife, and I angle it down, because if I'm angling it this way, I slip sometimes, and you can cut yourself. So I just gently go around. Can you guys see? And I try to make it level and not try to ice it with that big dome on it. I don't know if you guys have made them from the box. You get this ginormous, it's almost like an extra cake. And then what I'll do with this is I'll save it, and I'll either freeze it or the kids will eat it. And you could save up enough of these, you can make something with it, and then you freeze that. Let's set that here. So, and then I look at it like this, and it looks pretty good to me. Doesn't have to be perfect, but so it's much more even than when I started. And see, that's why I like this recipe. All those air holes, the cake is like nice and fluffy. All right, so there. And also when it's cold, you can handle it. It doesn't break. Okay, we got one more. And does anyone do anything with their cake tops that's interesting?
I make cake pops with them.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Aaliyah does that. All right, and I got that. That one needs a little more trimming, I feel like, on this side. So I'm gonna give it a little, but again, I'm angling down. Otherwise, what happens is you go and you can really get hurt like that. So the knife should just be down on an angle. Not so much that you cut the cake on an angle, but all right.
What do you do with the leftover cake?
Yes?
What do you do, Rondi, with it? Do you make cake pops too?
No, I just let people eat it in the house.
That makes sense.
Aaliyah does. She'll make cake pops with it. Okay, so now, I only had this size cake board in my house, which is, I don't know, 10. So what I did was I took my cake pan, I put it on top, and I traced it, and I cut it. If you don't have a cake board, you could take a piece of cardboard, and you could, if you don't want it to touch the cardboard, you could put foil on it first, and then just trace it and cut it. Actually, you're putting a cake pan on top of your cardboard, trace it, cut it, and then you can wrap it in parchment paper or foil, or they do sell paper for that at Michael's. I don't know if they still do like cake paper, but either way, you want to have a board under your cake. All right. So sometimes I'm just not sure. I look at my cake like how's it gonna look, and I look at it this way too. I don't like that way, so I like it this. I like it usually, or face up, face down. That's perfect. You gotta look at your cakes and kind of decide. Now, one thing I do with most of my cakes is, even though this is a really moist cake, because it's ice cold, if you were to eat it now, you might think it was dry or hard. So this cake already has holes in it. So what I did was I made a vanilla syrup. Basically, it's like you take a half sugar, half hot water, and mix it till it dissolves. You don't even have to make this much. It's an awful lot. Like you could do like a quarter and a quarter. And then I put the vanilla extract in there. And then I take my brush and I dip it in and I paint my cake with it, because it makes it really stay moist, especially if it's got to be refrigerated for a few days, if you're gonna, you're not gonna eat it right away. And that's what I do. And then it also has a little vanilla in there. It is really sweet, so, just keep that in mind. If you could also just do it with less sugar if you wanted to. All right, so that's my first layer. And then I got my icing. And I use these to ice with. They're called offset spatulas because they do that dip. And I have two. And I like this one all the time for icing, and they make them longer too. I just not comfortable, and I love this one for like the sides and touch up. So I don't love a ton of icing, and no one does in my family. So I'm just gonna put a small bit on there. I mean, just experiment. Don't be afraid. And start with less. You can always add more. So I take my offset. And now one thing, so I get it on there, but I never lift it up, because if you lift it up, that's when you see your crumbs. This is okay right now, but if you get a real crummy cake, see, I try never to lift that up, right? And then I just bring it to the sides. I mean, sometimes you're gonna lift it up, you can't help it, but then if you wanna lift it up, kind of ease it into part of the icing and then lift it up. But don't ever lift it up on the bare part of the cake, because you might pick up the cake. I'm gonna add a little more like that. These are great to have, like rubber spatulas. You can get these at United Restaurant. They have all this stuff in their store, and you could probably order it online, or you can order it really from anywhere online, but I know they have that stuff there. So I like a thin layer of chocolate, because we're not big icing people in this house, so I might add a little more to that. But I really like this recipe because it's almost like the cooked recipes I do. It's really silky and smooth. All right, that's enough for me, but there is enough icing if you want to make it thicker. And then I'm gonna flip it because I think it looked the best like that, symmetrically. And because I don't have holes in it, because it's the bottom side, I'm gonna poke some holes with a toothpick. Am I going too fast?
No.
No, you're good.
I'm gonna poke some holes in it. And my brush, like I don't always have a brush at work. For some reason I didn't have one, so I just used a little spoon and I went like this at work last week. It was messy, but if you don't have a brush, don't worry about it. You can even dip your hands in there if you want. Because these brushes, sometimes these pieces come out. You have to be careful. In the restaurant industry, you're not even allowed to use them. They're plastic now. That's probably why I don't have one at work anymore. All right. Like as I said, this is way too much, so I'll save it in the fridge, and you can make cocktails with this. You can add this to anything, and it'll last for about a month in the fridge. So if you're not going to use it for a month, I suggest freeze it, or it will grow mold on it. All right, I have a clean towel here. Okay. So when I ice the cake, I'm gonna put this on top of something. I like my other icing wheel better, it's taller. I'm going to use this book. Okay. There we go. All right. So just kind of look around it. Check, make sure it's centered on my board. And this is just me, but I like to, let me just check the cake. Perfect. I had a wrap. Okay. That's what it looks like. I'm not testing it because I can already see when it comes away from the sides like this. Let me see if I could get you a better view of that. Just from my experience, see how it comes away from the sides? That's how I know it's done. And it's done. But that's how I work at the restaurant. I just know that once they come off the sides, it's done. I recommend putting it on a rack. The cupcakes look, so this is a good recipe to make cupcakes with too. Okay, just if you have a rack, it's better to cool it on a rack. Don't do as I do, do as I say. So for the side of my cake, I ice my cakes, I start with the sides. That's just me, I always found it to be easier. So, and like I said, I like this small, I want you to be able to see me doing it. So I just get it, a nice little layer, move it back and forth. Take about that much. It's too hot, honey. Move it back and forth. And now there are times with the cake, woo, where you have a space right here because you didn't have it even or for whatever reason. So what I do is I fill it in like this first. This is a common problem. If you don't fill it in, you ice it, then it sort of looks like it looks funny. So what I try to do is just fill it in with your spatula first even. Go all the way around. Get it that so those sides filled in like that. And then it smells really good, this icing. And then can you guys see?
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna even it out when I'm done. I like a good amount on the sides. And this is a really great cake for icing. It's not falling apart. You know, sometimes you get crumbs everywhere, and that's when it's harder to ice it. So if you start with a good recipe, you won't have as many problems. I actually could have done a third layer here, people. And I think I will, since I have so much icing. Maybe not. This is good. But if you wanted to do the third layer, it would be easy because these aren't big, fat layers. Good? Tell them how it tastes. Julie just had a cupcake. How is it?
It's like a cupcake.
Is it good?
Yeah.
All right, Julie said it's good. As I said, so sometimes if the icing is the right consistency because it's spreading nicely and it's not falling off the cake, and if it's too hard, it won't stick to the cake and it pulls the cake. So this recipe was perfect. I used all the sugar it called for and all the cream. Okay, so now I'm gonna smooth this a little, but first I'm gonna get the top. Okay. All right, this book. Julia, can you take this book, hon?
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Okay. Now, I'm gonna do my top. But I'm gonna use my bigger one. Now, So with the top of the cake, again, like, I try not to lift it up. And this cake is actually okay if you lift it up, but there are cakes where you lift the whole top of the cake and then you get crumbs in the icing and what a mess. But the trick with that is just, if you start to see that happen, do not lift your spatula up. Just use the icing from the, see, that actually pulled the piece of cake. Just use your icing like that. And I think that's plenty. So what I do with this now, is go back here. I'll go do my sides. And I'll pull the, you'll see like there's a ridge starting to form on the top. Okay. So what I'll do with that now is I'm going to take a cup with water. I've always used water to like smooth things. So I'm going to pull this on like this. They can hear you, you know. You can read. That's fine. Okay. I'm using water to smooth this. And actually warm water is best. So what I'm going to do is, you can spend hours doing this to make it as smooth as possible, but unless I'm doing like a cake where someone said to me, I need the smoothest top possible, what I'll do now is I'll do one more time around. Okay, where's my little, try this. I haven't used it in a while, but you hold it. I don't like that one. I'm gonna try this one. You hold it flat, and then you turn your cake with it. You press into the sides a little bit. Okay. Put that back, and there's one side that I didn't do great, so I'll go back and, you know, don't be afraid. Like, I used to look at a cake and I'd only see the flaws in my cake. And then I realized, you know what? No one even notices that. I'm not Jacques Therese. I'm Rondi. I'm not one of these, I'm not winning a contest. I just want to make a delicious cake that looks pretty. So what I do with the tops of my cake now, I'm going to decorate it, but I take my little offset and I go like this. And I make a nice little, you just go back and forth, little ridge design. Can you guys see that? I go to the end. I highly recommend this icing. It's so nice to decorate with. Then, okay, then I get there. Then I'm going to add my pastry bag and my tip. So the tip goes in the bottom of your bag. This is a number 21, and it's here. So right at about a quarter of the way down, I mark it. And then I lift it, and then I'm gonna cut it. This is where you can make a mistake. Like if you cut it too far down, it doesn't work. Then the tip pops right out. You only wanna go like a little under a 1/4 inch way. Then I cut that, and then it's perfect. It won't pop out. And then I like to take my bag, turn it almost all the way inside out, and I will put it in a cup, like any cup, to make it stand up. Like that. And I put some icing in the bag. I don't put too much because, I don't know, it can be hard to squeeze it out if your wrists hurt you. So some people don't have that, but it's just easier to handle when there's not as much in there. Okay, and then, there it is. I take that trusty rubber spatula. Okay, let me dry it off. And I take the flat edge and I push it all to the bottom so that it's just like that. And then if it's too big, you could cut it if you wanted to. So, and then I twist it. And then if you want to practice, if you want to learn how to do these piping things, you could go on YouTube, I'm sure. But when I learned at Michael's classes. They were great. And I just practice what I'm going to do. I make a shell, up, down, up, down, up, down.
Rondi, you need to do it closer to you.
What?
Do it closer to you because the camera doesn't show what you're doing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just practice a little up, down, up, down. And like, you could just go on YouTube and watch how they actually do that. And it's a lot easier than you think. So I'm going to start here. And I'm going to go up and that. Like, this is the most basic. There's so many new tips out there. And then I see that starting to fall back. So I'm just going to smooth it out there. And don't get stuck on the details. Like I said, everyone's just happy you baked them a cake. They're just happy that somebody went out of the way for them. And just go back and forth. And there's all different kinds of tips, and you can see that on, I'm sure, YouTube as well. But this is the most basic one that I use for this size cake. If I have a bigger cake, I use the same style, but just a bigger tip. And then I do that. Up and back. Can you see?
Yeah, that's better.
We can see.
All right. I'm doing it backwards, so it's hard, but okay. One, just, and then I'm getting towards the end, so just got to figure the end piece, boop, like that. No, you know what? I noticed that, but I don't know if anyone else would. Then I'm going to go get a really nice cake stand that I'm going to serve it on. So this way, because there's not a lot of room on the edges there to pipe the bottom, and I want to, so you lift your cake up with a long knife or a spatula. I'll do it from the other angle so you can see. I don't know if you could even see that. Wait. Trying to show you that. Oh, maybe the side. So I stick my knife under here and I stick my hand, right? And then I lift it up carefully and then I put it on here and then I get my knife back and then I go like that and then I just slide it out. Don't do that. But you always just move it with your knife. And then it always looks nicer. And if you're taking it to go, I could have left my cake board a little bit wider to pipe on the board. So I'm gonna do the bottom.
Okay.
It's hard for you to see me do this, but I'm gonna try to do it backwards. Oh yeah, I know. I'm gonna go like this. Just a little extra. And then if you wanted to, that would be for another time. You could make flowers. I haven't made them in years, but you need a totally different icing for that, a stiffer one. You can put some fresh berries on this cake if you want. Would be really pretty. I don't have any, but. Questions? Comments?
Looks great, Rondi.
Beautiful. What time should we come by for the drive-by slice?
Whenever you want, like seriously, I'll cut it and put it in foil and leave it outside for you. Just text me or tell me you're gonna do that because I have a whole other one. One other thing I might do with this cake, I like to do sometimes, is just do one of these things. Let's see. I wanna have it, I go up, right? And then I go down. And then I'll go up. And then I go down, just some more design, up. And it's just easy. Did I come down on that? I don't remember. I'm gonna go, I did, I went up, I think. I'm gonna come down, yep. I'm gonna go up, down, up. And you get that cool pattern. Can you guys see that? I don't want it to fall. And at this point, you could put some berries on it, around it, like strawberries would be good. Or I'm gonna use this maybe. I have these little cacao nibs. It's just little dark chocolate bits. And I'm just gonna do that, just to give it something. You could also dust it with powdered sugar. And there you go. That took a while, huh? I don't like that one. There you have it.
Looks beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Smells amazing.
Yummy.
So if you want to text me, I'll give you my cell phone. It's 919-345-0750. And if you want to come by later, just tell me when you want to come by, and I'll leave a piece outside for you.
Rondi,
Yeah.
can you do that design on the top, the marbleizing with a skewer, or do you have to use the?
You need a flat end. Like you need a flat. Yeah, you could do with the skewer, I'm sure.
Okay.
Just hold it on an angle. Don't go too deep because you'll then see the cake.
Okay.
I'm gonna lift up the screen so you could see it better even.
Oh, okay.
Really nice.
Wow, that looks so fancy.
Wow.
Looks gorgeous.
Does.
I think definitely serve it with berries.
Blueberries.
Yeah, or red for a contrast, something red maybe.
Mm.
You can make a sauce. I mean, you could go crazy. All right. Any questions?
You have questions in the chat.
Oh, okay. Let me just look at that. Yep, thank you. I'm gonna turn it. Oh yeah, Bonnie, that's right. Hershey's does make a really dark cocoa powder. I forgot about that. And it's a lot less expensive. When you're using your adjustment, someone asked, that's a good question, if you're using soy milk or oat milk, and you're swapping it out, I mean, I'm assuming that you're trying to make a cake with no dairy, right? So in that instance, you wouldn't be using butter either, but you can definitely, if you're gonna do this cake, let's say, with the butter and you're gonna use, those kinds of milks, I would do an even swap. I can't tell you what it's gonna taste like. It won't be as rich, but it could work. But I would do a recipe that's already made for like non-dairy milk. Oh, wait, more question. Okay,
I just posted the recipes again.
thank you. Thanks, guys. This was great. Therapeutic. And I even have leftover icing. So you could definitely do 3 layers with this icing. You know, just about. Yeah, you definitely could do it.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, Rondi.
Can we all, can everybody unmute so we can just give Rondi a little round of applause that she can hear?
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Now what am I gonna do with my cake, Rondi?
I don't know. Did
Greta,
you?
can we see your cake?
Yeah, let's see Greta's.
Let's see.
Oh yeah, let's see it, Greta.
I don't know. I'm trying to see how you can see it.
Ooh,
I
pretty.
didn't see it.
That's
I
good.
didn't see it.
My neighbors are tired of me baking because I'm constantly sending stuff downstairs.
I'll stop by tomorrow, Greta.
Absolutely.
Make-
After you go to Rondi's, you can come by here.
I'll be in Cary on Monday, Vivian. I'll freeze a piece if you want.
Oh, thank you. That would be so
Yeah.
awesome.
I have to go early in the morning, so I'll just leave it. I'm gonna cut it. I want to see what it looks like. All right.
You'll have us drooling.
The big reveal.
I
Already am.
like to just score it, you know, and then.
Ouch.
Okay, I'm gonna just cut it and put it on a plate. You can make a chocolate cake if you want. That recipe she has looks really good for that. Wow. This cake cuts so nicely that it's crazy.
Oh, gorgeous.
Ooh.
Spectacular.
Fantastic.
I'm gonna try it.
Now
I
you
like just a little chocolate in the middle. I don't like a lot.
That looks good, doesn't it?
It's really good. It's really, really good.
Is it too sweet or is it just right?
The cake isn't sweet. The icing is obviously sweet, but
Right.
the cake is pretty good. I would leave it out room temperature though, because it's still cold. And a cold cake made with butter, the butter, as you can imagine, butter when it's cold, it's just, so the more room temperature it sits, the better it tastes. Whereas if you do a cake with oil, I did a cake with oil and butter recently. That was good too. It's not as hard when it's cold. So yeah, it's still really cold, but it's still good. Like, all right, let me know if you want a piece. Look at that.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Gorgeous. Wow.
All right, and if I come up with another yellow cake I like better, I'll let Julia know.
Thanks, Rondi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thanks,
Thanks
Rondi.
for coming.
so much. Yum, yum.
Thank you.
I don't even know who was.